Oh, my friends, thank you for coming to play with the ideas that I present on my channel. This is part 2 of Dream State. And another part of this same meditation, they're going to talk about the people who take advantage of when they're resting physically or asleep to do exploring. And they're saying that there is a level of dream state that is more awake and aware than simply the repair process. And this is called REM. It's not technically the dream state that they were referring to in the first part of this series. REM is a time when the mind is more energized in sleep than it is for just the cleansing and rebalancing effort of the brain. REM is when there is some crossover between the part of the brain that's used for willful activities when we're awake and the unconscious, or the part of the brain that is not used in waking life. So, you know, and so there are times when we are asleep that choices can be made as to how this unconscious energy in our brain can be utilized. It's a period when many of our already known activities, particularly for ourselves, take place. For example, we can visit and communicate with a prior incarnation or a future incarnation of ourself, of our consciousness. A different story, so to speak. A time when we can draw the experience of those events on some level into our experience in life. They're saying that I met my twin or my split energy, who was a nun in India. That occurred when I was in the REM state of dreaming. In REM, we can also make choices when we actually need to apply the unconscious in terms of not being concerned about our body, decision-making processes during our waking life. So they're saying a lot of communication between people occurs in REM. Now, this was fascinating to me. You often wonder at the seeming coincidences with people where you will meet the exact person that you want or need to meet at a most important time in your life. These kinds of coincidental meetings are not coincidences. They are set up meetings in REM state. Now, some of them are, of course, agreements made in the prior life. But since the choices that we make are new and fresh constantly, we're not held or bound to our pre-life decisions. Our pre-birth plan is more of a general plan of accomplishment. The specifics, which need to be worked out almost on a daily basis, how we will accomplish the tasks. This involves a lot of times other people who are very key or who have information or experience that we need to bring into our conscious life experience. And so you agree to meet them in REM dream state. A whole lot of communication takes place on this level. So then I had to ask, well, how does that occur? Would the other person have to be asleep and dreaming in their REM dream state? How do you initially meet the person that you need? The answer is coming, that it's hard to explain how complex, abstract communication actually happens. because the conscious mind is so limited in its ability. The only way of explaining it is that the REM state, when you're seeking something, it's like every possible band, like on a radio, every possible wavelength of every possible radio, TV, internet information that passes through us in our physical life. It's as if in dream state, we were tuned into every one of them and all of them simultaneously. But unlike the radio, it's as if you could tune into all radio bands simultaneously. And then when you were looking for a person that was calling for a particular type of experience, you could sort and sift and shuffle around and locate that person from the signals that they're sending out. Of course, you simultaneously also are sending signals, the type of signals that you desire. And again, these can be in a very non-specific way. But in REM dream state, you can scan a tremendous number of people searching and seeking and picking up on someone whose goal might be similar or whose goal might be just the opposite of what you're looking for. But by meeting them and being repelled by the opposing desire, that might actualize the circumstances for what you really are wishing to accomplish and trigger that conscious understanding. Now, we realize that this is a hard concept for people to get. This generally occurs with people who are not very distant geographically from each other. For example, you wouldn't be searching in Japan for a chance encounter. You might need to galvanize my conscious identity because of the chances of me running into somebody from Japan are extremely remote. And so these occurrences generally take place between people in the same geographic location. Now, when a coincidence does take place with somebody way beyond our hemisphere or area of influence geographically, that may be more due to a prior life or pre-birth agreement. That's where the contracts might have been made. The dream state agreement between people for interaction is usually of a less dramatic nature than a pre-birth agreement. Dream agreements are more immediate and their effect is not as long-lasting as the requirement of energy with each other. And I wanted to add here something that I had an experience that I didn't understand until I really studied this particular meditation. This was right after I'd gotten back from Texas. My brother had died. And of course, at the time I had undiagnosed RA. And so I was in really rough shape physically too. But I was absolutely bound and determined to go to an event at 1440 in Santa Cruz, which is in California, and I'm in New Hampshire. And I knew I had to go. I knew I had to go. It was not even obsession. It was like knowing I had to do this. And even my husband was really questioning why, and where are you going to get the money to do that? And, why is this so important? And I said, I have no idea, but I have to go to this. So I was out there one morning. I went out to the deck that's in back of the breakfast hall because the birds were singing and I wanted to hear the bird song out there. And there was this lovely woman having breakfast out there. So I asked her if I could join her. And we sat and we started talking, and she had just lost her mother, and I had just lost my brother. So we were kind of on the same wavelength with grieving a recent loss. And then that was it. I mean, I saw her at a distance once and waved at her, but it was a big conference. So we didn't hang out together or anything. But the last day of the conference, we were coming down out of the big auditorium, and we happened to be coming down the same ramp exit. She was on one side of the rail and I was on the other, but we were moving toward the exit door. And we turned to each other, and all of a sudden something started to happen. When our chakras lined up, all this energy started to flow between us. And I started to cry, and she said, I never thought I'd see you again. Now, I'd never seen her before that I knew of, but we knew we were somebody to each other. So we exchanged information. And then when she came out east for work, she came up to New Hampshire and went to a healer that I knew in Keene, and found out who she was to me. And it turns out she was my grandmother in my very last lifetime, which was as a Native American. And I only lived to be about 4 or 5 years old. Our tribe, our band in our tribe was was on the move, and I distinctly remembered, once I knew who she was to me, that I remember riding on her back, or her carrying me when we were trying to escape and save our lives. And yeah, she was my grandmother. And I'm older than she is in this lifetime. So uh, I guess that's why I needed to go to that conference, wasn't it? She is a beloved part of my life now. So there is a part 3 to this. And until I see you again, please be well and please be blessed.